So let's talk a bit about forests and peatlands. What connects these two ecosystems and what makes them different? Forests are hubs of biodiversity, containing around 80% of amphibians, 75% of birds, and 68% of mammal species around the world. They also host over 60,000 tree species and are home to many other terrestrial plants. So, in terms of genetic biodiversity, forests are invaluable systems for life on Earth. Peatlands, on the other hand, while not as staggering as forests in terms of how many individual species they can hold, offer a large number of rare species with highly specialised functions. This means that peatlands are vital in terms of something called ecosystem diversity. This type of diversity relates to an ecosystem's function within a certain geographical area. In the case of peatlands, because they only form in very particular waterlogged conditions, the plants that live on them are especially adapted to the low levels of oxygen and acidity found there, which means that the local ecology on and around a peatland can become very unique, thus helping to create diversity for the region as a whole. Carbon storage is another benefit of both peatlands and forests, which means that they both help to reduce the effects of climate change. However, the two ecosystems store carbon in very different ways. The main difference is that peatlands store carbon through an accumulation of semi-decomposed natural matter, which then gets captured in thin layers over millennia. While forests, on the other hand, store most of their carbon in the form of trees, which have a much shorter carbon cycle, as they re-release the carbon back into the atmosphere after they die. So, how does this work then? Well, while a tree is growing, it absorbs carbon dioxide, or CO2, via photosynthesis. It then releases the oxygen and holds the carbon, which forms the wood, litter, and soil. The soil normally holds the carbon for a long time, but the wood and litter can release the carbon at different rates as a result of decomposition. The difference with peatlands is that, being waterlogged and lacking oxygen, the normal cycle of decay is disrupted, allowing them to store carbon for far longer periods of time. So unlike forests that release carbon as part of their natural cycle, a healthy peatland will simply store the carbon for thousands of years, provided it isn't drained, burned, or otherwise degraded. Today, peatlands store 42% of the world's soil carbon, and despite only taking up 3% of the planet's land surface area, peatlands store twice the carbon as all the forests combined. In some places, peatlands have been drained to plant trees. This is not only an environment that the trees themselves probably wouldn't choose, but also, when the peatland is drained of water, the organic matter which was once stored underground starts to finally decompose and re-release. Just imagine all those layers of plants breaking down all at once. Another connection between peatlands and forests is that they both provide fantastic hydrological functions. Trees are great at soaking up water, and wood debris can create small dams, both of which can prevent downstream flood hazards by slowing water flow. Upstream peatlands are also able to prevent floods by buffering the flow of water to downstream spaces. And some trees can even soak up pollution from their environment, which can be beneficial for water purification, while healthy peatlands are also able to drastically increase water quality by filtering out dissolved organic matter. In fact, about 70% of the UK's drinking water comes from peatlands. Degraded peatlands, however, have the opposite effect and can contribute to worsening water quality, which means heavy chemical treatment of drinking water. So, in summary, both forests and peatlands provide a huge number of ecosystem services and are vital for human and non-human well-being alike. It's important that we make space for both peatlands and forests and understand their different roles in the climate and ecological crisis.